Last night's Blazers blowout loss to the Clippers may be a sign of things to come. In the first half of that game last night, there were just as many Blazers that were 0 for 4 or worse from the field than there were those that had more than 2 makes in the field from the field in the first half. Wrap your head around that. There were just as many guys who were 0 for 4 or worse than there were that had 2 makes from the field. 3 apiece.
Ew.
That's a bad game. That's a bad first half. And it didn't get much better in the second half, though it did get a little bit better. Some of your feedback on the Vancouver Ford text line, 503-864-6326. After 3 years, shouldn't they be better? Yeah, one would think. But when thinking about this, you've said this quite often, is that this is truly year 2 of a tank. Like full-on tank job. The other 2 seasons were injuries pulling the ripcord at the end of the year and making this thing just go absolutely sideways. But to that texter's point, this is careening down the path of the worst 4-year stretch in Blazers franchise history, outside of what, the first 4 years of the franchise's existence, which can only tell us that we're 3 years away from an NBA title.
And
Isn't that right?
Yeah, the thing about this stuff is, and this is exactly what I said from the jump, you either go all in on Damian Lillard or you go full reset. And the credit I gave to the front office was picking a bleeping path.
They did.
Because for multiple years, they did not.
Mm-hmm.
And it was evident for the inability or lack of willingness to make moves during the prime era of Damian Lillard, even in the early era of Damian Lillard, that led to LaMarcus Aldridge's exit for nothing.
Yep.
Or getting the draft wrong in 2017, or offering huge extensions that turned into negative assets all the way through for 4+ years. You had the holding on of CJ McCollum. Like, you just go down the list. Like, we don't need to revisit every part of it, but like they chose the path, which was to go full reset. And a full reset in the NBA sucks.
It does.
It is miserable. I have been trying to tell everybody this for literally 2 years. It is going to be a path that you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel until you have that guy.
Yeah.
And whether it's, in last year's draft, great, you got Zachary Rizachet as the number 1 overall pick. You think
He's
the
not
Hawks,
doing great.
I mean, none of those guys. Like, Alex Sarr was the guy that I had number 1 on my board, and he's starting to put some stuff together, but he's a defensive-minded guy who does a lot of other things. It's never going to be the cornerstone of your franchise. Over your shoulder right now, there's clips playing of Ja Morant and Victor Wembanyama, the number 2 pick and a number 1 pick. When you look at those guys, they're franchise corner. Like, if I ask you about the trajectory of the Memphis Grizzlies, where would you say they are right now? Are they on the way up?
They're on the way up.
The San Antonio Spurs.
On the way up. Yeah, on the way up. Yep.
When you get the guy, then it changes. There's no amount of years that says, yes, the San Antonio Spurs were in this crap for 5 years.
Yeah, I think the sting of it, though, is that you got the number 3 pick, and that was Scoot Henderson a year ago, and he has not elevated the trajectory of this franchise whatsoever. And sometimes that happens when you get the number 3 pick. There are guys that were drafted behind him that you have gone out and you've said several times, like, Thompson does not make as much sense.
No.
Amen Thompson does not make as much sense in Portland.
You're taking the biggest swing possible, and if you're looking at where they drafted Scoot, and you talk to 29 other general managers, they all take Scoot because he's the guy that you could be a top 3 guy on a team.
No. That hurts. That hurts your rebuild when the draft is not good. And that sucks. And there's always going to be the hindsight's 2020, right? And that is kind of I think one thing Blazer fans are sick of as well is like, yeah, we don't want to hear it again that, one guy didn't make sense because where we were as a franchise. We don't want to hear that we should have taken Kevin Durant over, or that Greg Oden was the right pick over Kevin Durant, even though at the time we all felt that, right? Mm-hmm. We don't want to hear
the revisionist
again
history stuff
that we drafted Sam Bowie over Michael Jordan.
It's not even
right?
It's not even about where the franchise is. They took what they thought was the best player available. The one with the highest. It was actually the opposite of what they thought. It wasn't about fit. It wasn't about that. It was take the biggest swing at the player they thought would be the best.
Well, they have whiffed nearly 100 games into his career.
Yes.
I mean, there's no other way to
No,
put it.
I mean, you take a look at where Scoot sits right now through 100 games. He's somewhere between Emmanuel Mudiay and Sebastian Telfair.
Damn.
Like, that's not me just like saying that. The numbers bear it out.
But until you get the star, you don't have a spot.
No, he did.
Yeah.
None of this stuff. You're stuck in. There's two places in the NBA you can get stuck: at the very bottom and in the middle. It's a lot more fun, quote unquote, in the middle because you get to have some fun and you get to make the playoffs. But there's just a ceiling that you will never ever break.
Well, that was the Blazers.
Yes,
that was the Blazers before, and
it's
now it's a different kind of suck now.
But now there's not a ceiling.
Yeah.
But there's also not a floor. It can just. For everybody's like, this is as bad as it could possibly be. No, it's not.
Now, Washington.
Go watch the Washington Wizards play basketball. We're sitting with 3 scouts last night, and we were talking about just kind of where teams are at, and they were just like, I can't imagine being where that team is right now.
Yeah,
like they're orders of magnitude worse, and it's like there was a Blazers fan on the YouTube chat on the post game show last night who was like, I'd rather be Charlotte. They have 2 stars to build around. Like, LaMelo Ball has been there for years, and what do they have to show for it?
Nothing. Well, Brandon Miller.
Well, I mean, again, but and again, as much as I like Miller, like where like are they really better off? You can like, oh, they have better assets. I'm like, do they?
Yeah, not really,
because none of it's working.
Yeah, well, it's not working here either, and I think after this year, people are going to want to see that turn around. But last night was bad, especially because now what you're seeing. And you talked about this at the beginning of this, is that the veterans are starting to say, all right, what's my next move? Mm-hmm. That's the slipperyest slope. And we're not even halfway through the season.
No, and I think you're seeing it from more than just the veterans.
Yeah.
I think you're just seeing, like, when you look out there and you watch the game for the last 3 games, like the homestand, it's funky. It's funky. And I'm like, well, fire Chauncey. I'm like, no. The last thing you want to do right now is go, hey, you know what you should do in a season where things are starting to fall apart? Let's go to an interim head coach.
Well, yeah. What are you looking for? A spark to win games?
Yeah, it's like.
I don't think that's the answer either.
Right now, again, a lot of times with the tank stuff, it's just plugging your nose and crawling through the tunnel.
All right. Well, we are in the S-pipe right now. We're Andy Dufresne, and we're trying to get out that S-pipe, and it's going to be a long crawl. All right.
Check back in, was it May 22nd?
We got some logs to crawl over right now.
Look, was it May 22nd or May 23rd? On that day, a lot of things will be decided.
A lot of people may lose their mind, too.
Yeah.
Good and bad.
Good and bad.
Good and bad. All right.